What is up, everyone? Welcome to Podcast Elrond. We are here bringing you another interview today. And let me tell you, Steven and I are pretty excited to bring you Nils Wollny from Holoride. Nils was the former head of digital business at Audi, and now he is the CEO of Holoride, where they are trying to turn transit time into valuable time, making people on the go happier, smarter, and even more productive. We are excited to bring Nils on today. Welcome, Nils.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Holoride was the first token that was added to MyRDEX back in 2021. Seems like a long time ago. But
Ages.
The progression of Holoride, the progression of the RIDE token itself, you know, it's a story that is unfolding to be something pretty awesome, I would say. So I've been looking forward to this opportunity for a long time, and definitely welcome to the show, and it's great to meet you, Nils.
It's such a pleasure to be with you guys today.
All right, Nils. So you are the CEO of Holoride, which is a VR AR experience that is revolutionizing basically the metaverse world, because you guys are doing something that at least Steven and I don't think anyone else is currently doing. You've created this elastic VR world that moves around as the car drives. Nils, would you give us just a little bit of a background about Holoride and why you formed this company to begin with?
So our journey dates back to 2015, to be honest. When I was at Audi and running the digital business department in the headquarters, we were looking into ways how car companies can stay relevant once you have autonomous vehicles on the road. So how can you be part of the value chain and not just build cars, and then the experience or the whole transportation ecosystem is run by somebody else, aka big tech. And we were looking into methods how we can use the very unique fact that people are traveling from A to B. They're in a very private environment, and turn the mobility data, so the motion data and the location data, into something that is exciting in terms of in-car experience. So that's where our journey started, and we started experimenting with the data sets we had. So modern cars have a lot of data for their driver assistance systems already. So not just for autonomous driving data sets are used, but just for brake assistance or lane assists and all these modern functionalities. You already have a lot of compute going on in the car. And we looked at the data sets and also the fact that you're traveling the world, and started experimenting with VR in a car by bringing VR games to the car and matching the motion of your virtual vehicle with the motion of the real vehicle. And I have to tell you, back in 2015, this was quite prototypish. So we had 2 gaming PCs in the trunk, hardwired to the central computing entity of the car, and had a wired headset, so the Oculus Rift back then, connected to the gaming PCs, and had our first prototype. And there was a lot of chewing gum and duct tape, and also the experience was okay-ish, right? So a lot of people got motion sick because it wasn't fully in sync. But we worked on the prototype until we eventually had a version that was super stable and we could test with users, but we could also test with potential ecosystem partners like gaming companies and movie companies, and showed them our prototype, and the feedback was amazing. On the experience side, the studios, we had the fantastic feedback from them saying, hey, this is a new way how a car becomes a useful vehicle in our ecosystem, because we have games, we have movies, we have theme parks, but a lot of people are in transit. They spend a lot of time, and media consumption is mediocre. But here is a new way to exploit our IP and bring like moving theme parks to life. And this was very encouraging. And when we tested with users, we stumbled upon the very nice side effect that a lot of people can't consume visual content in cars because they get motion sick. This is due to the fact if your eyes are fixed on the screen, maybe the shoulder lines of the car are high, you have tinted windows, you have a black big seat in front of you. And if you have a tablet or phone, you also look a little bit downwards. So you don't see much of the environment. And if there is a mismatch between what your eyes are seeing and what your body is feeling, this can create motion sickness. So, and from the statistics, we knew 2/3 of all people are excluded because 1/3 gets severe motion sickness and 1/3 gets symptoms after a short period of time, and 1/3 is fine. But this is limiting to the potential. So when we had our first prototype, we discovered, hey, a lot of people that usually do get motion sick don't get motion sick anymore. Again, and these were like two indicators, having something on the experience side and also enabling visual content for more people in cars, that this could be very interesting. Long story short, the studios we showed our prototype to, they also planted another seed because they provided me with a feedback saying, hey, this is a great solution. It's great that Audi is developing it, but how does it scale? Of course, Audi can license IP from us, but then it was my responsibility to make a business case, and that wasn't just feasible. And so they planted the seed, hey, why not make this manufacturer agnostic, so that every car manufacturer can utilize this technology? And I'm still extremely thankful for the board of management at Audi. They followed our unconventional recommendation saying, let's make this an independent company and offer this to all car manufacturers out there. And this is how our journey then actually started. End of 2018, we founded the company. We started operations early 2019. Hey, and here we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Nils. Just a quick follow-up question on that. It sounds like Audi was basically your backer, your people pushing you to get this company started, correct?
It was our own motivation because we sensed there is something to it. Honestly, back then nobody talked about the metaverse, and a lot of people called us crazy for trying to bring immersive tech to cars that syncs with emotion interpretation. Said, who needs this? Fast forward a few years, suddenly it becomes extremely relevant for a lot of people in the industry as well as users. So yeah, it was our intrinsic motivation, but we are very, very thankful that the board of management of Audi enabled us to follow our vision and to follow our dream to build this company.
Wow, that's hilarious to hear how back in 2015, the prototype, you started with computers in the trunk and wired headsets and all sorts of stuff. And I find it particularly interesting how you mentioned that the prototype, people actually got motion sickness from the prototype, but as the technology progressed and improved, it's almost like maybe somebody who was trying the prototype, they got motion sickness, that was kind of remedied, but then it even included people who just get motion sickness, and even that's providing a solution for those people too. So I mean, gosh, I mean, where to begin, really? There's a lot that I want to involve about this conversation that kind of brings about the kind of this hybrid idea of bringing a Web 2 company into the Web 3 space, and how they almost, they coincide and they complement one another. So you mentioned that the project kind of came to life at the end of 2018, which according to just, the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin cycle, I mean, that wasn't necessarily a great time to perhaps really be pitching for blockchain to be the solution, or rather a tool to implement into Holoride. So Nils, what can you tell us about your personal discovery with the blockchain and how that intertwined with what you were developing, which, as we now know is Holoride? And of course, I'm curious to hear how you discovered, how you landed on Elrond Network. So I'll leave it at that. Just give us some insight to how the Web3 idea in the metaverse really found its way into what you were building.
Yeah, sure. So the first time I really looked deeper into blockchain technology was also in 2015. I mean, this was part of my responsibility. We were always looking for how can we utilize technology for the benefit of customers or users, and also for the benefit of the industry. So some commercial benefits. And back in 2015, to be honest with you, I couldn't really talk with people about blockchain technology in a traditional car manufacturer. Everybody was saying, okay, that's for, I don't know, for the dark net. I don't see the value in this technology. This changed obviously over the course of time, but also in 2018 when we founded the company. In 2019 we started our company. We were focusing on building our core tech first. We always had this in the back of our mind that this could be beneficial, but I think it was during Corona. It was 2020. Maybe I had a little bit too much time, but I was rethinking the way we want to launch our platform, because a great technology platform is nothing worth without great content, and we are definitely a new type of platform in that sense. So we were thinking about, okay, we'll potentially work with a lot of indie developers because they push the boundaries on what's possible, and they come up with the most creative ideas. But at the same time, I found that they're not really compensated in a very fair and transparent way. And obviously, blockchain is a very nice way to rethink this approach by saying, okay, it helps us to be fully transparent on how often is your title or your experience being played or engaged with. And we said, okay, this can become a metric. We'll simply distribute the revenue we generate to our developers based on engagement time. So if you have produced an experience that people love, then you should get a larger piece of the cake than someone that has created something that no one is really interested in. And I mean, we are not the first one applying this approach, but we wanted to say, why not do this in a very transparent way by having the ability for indie developers to really see, okay, this is the truth because it's transparent in a blockchain, so you can see the sessions and the engagement time. That was the first conceptual idea back then in 2020. So why not rethink the platform approach? And the second one was obviously the whole tokenization angle, giving people real ownership of the virtual items they purchased over time or they earned over time, and give them the ability to trade them, to resell them. Was another very nice angle where we thought, okay, this is interesting because our initial target group is Gen Z, so teenagers on back seats. And what we could observe back then is that their digital identity, also in 2018, 2020, you could already see this, that the digital identity is sometimes even more worth to them than their physical identity. And digital items now it's 2023, definitely have almost reached the same level for Gen Z in terms of ownership importance than physical items. And so these were like the two major driving forces. And then we were looking, because you asked about MultiversX or Elrond. Are you renaming your podcast, by the way? No, just kidding. It's like,
we'll see.
We're in no rush.
No, it's just joking. But we were looking at different networks and their capabilities. And what was important for us was definitely transaction speed. It was definitely transaction cost, because all the models we were thinking about, you can't afford to have gas fees that are just insane. And one of the major aspects at the end of the day was also the ecological impact. And I was very happy to find that Elrond or MultiversX is carbon negative. And these are important aspects if you really work also with an industry like the car industry that now is transforming towards electric mobility. It's an important aspect. I mean, it's in general important, but also for the partners we work with. So, and these were items plus user friendliness, or the UX in general, which were parameters where we said, okay, this is from a technical angle, an interesting network. But then two more things happened. I learned a lot about the community. And what I also learned on my personal blockchain journey, that it's not so much about the tech, but very much about the community. I mean, your members, your pushing it every day, but it's the Elrond community or MultiversX community is very, very strong, very vocal, very engaged, extremely participating, interested, giving advice, giving feedback. So this is something where young companies like us can draw a lot of insights from that are extremely helpful in progressing your product. And then there was the personal angle. When Lucian Minku first showed up in our office, I mean, he dedicated a lot of time. Benjamin came over here to Munich. We locked ourselves in for a week in our conference room, and we're like day and night discussing like the angles that are possible when we enter the network, and we were like, yeah, that's also on a personal level a great fit. And this was that ticked all the boxes for me personally to make this decision back in the days. It's already, I mean, it feels like ages ago, but it's just 2.5 years, 2 years ago.
Crazy. So just to recap, you said that kind of like the main 2 points, the tokenization of the the ride utility token was to reward those developers in a transparent way, as well as provide the consumers that real ownership. So, and then lastly, so you were working personally with Lucian and Benjamin, kind of behind the scenes. That's, I mean, that's always great to hear, to learn that Holoride wasn't just somebody that noticed MultiversX and the utility of the layer 1 eGold, but rather there was true collaboration and conversations had. I mean, by the way, you talk about why you chose MultiversX and other interviews and so forth. It seems as though there is something deeper connection-wise to the team, but I don't know if I had ever really like heard about that. So that's always great to hear that there's that layer of personalization that went into the process.
Definitely.
And speaking of MultiversX, you guys went what I would call an untraditional route for a company like yourself. During 2020, I'd call it the year of IPOs. There were IPOs being dropped left and right. What made Holoride pursue a different means of funding? I'm not sure if the RIDE token was actually used to fund the Holoride ecosystem, but I know you guys also went towards the private route before you you came to the MultiversX, previously Elrond ecosystem. So could you give us a little bit of insight as to what made you guys pursue that route of funding instead of going the traditional IPO route?
So a year before that, we did a Series A funding round, so an traditional equity funding round. But back then we brought on board strategic investors that really help us with our core technology. I think there is a big difference. One aspect is funding like the core technology and the development, and the other one is the vibrant ecosystem that sits on top of it. So, and we made it very clear and transparent from the beginning how we will use the funds that we collect with our utility token that we issued back in 2021, that the majority of the funds goes to creators, to content creators. And this is how we have spent it, to have like our initial portfolio of experiences that sits on top of our core technology. And I personally see way more momentum and value creation, value capturing being engaged with a utility token, because as I said, the best technology is nothing worth without the content and the experiences and the ecosystem sitting on top of it. So for on the one hand, of course, it helped us to create those initial experiences in our ecosystem. But on the other hand, it also helped us creating the first ambassadors, the first feedback givers, the first people we had a sounding board with that told us what they like and where they see improvements and all those things. So suddenly you gain so much more than just funding. It's more about you tap into a community that is interested in your product and that is interested in your long-term path and participating in the active development. And this was one of the major aspects where we said, okay, this is the right way for us to go, because I strongly believe, even though we were not a crypto native company when we started, But to become a successful metaverse company, it's essential that you marry all these components together and make it very, very participatory and very community driven. And that's why we've chosen the path to create our own token and now create the NFT ecosystem on it and make everyone a part of it.
All right. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Stephen?
Yeah, you've mentioned now a few times the aspect of the community, Nils, and obviously that's the main driving factor, I would say, of adoption. And obviously, you need a compelling product. You can't just have, there are a lot of coins that don't have really any much meaning in the world of cryptocurrency, but Ride is definitely a token that is adding to the compelling story of the Holoride ecosystem. And I mean, on top of what the utility of cryptocurrencies are, Ride being a special token because it will add more use case over time with more functionality, and getting back to that key element of rewarding those creators. I do want to get into the Ride token itself, being the utility token. Can you give us kind of just like an overview of not maybe so much what we could go online and read about the Holoride token, but from a personal level, really what gets you excited about the Ride token, what utility it has right now, and not asking for any spoilers or secrets, but any insight to just what power the Ride token will have in the future.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a question that probably a lot of community members have. So when we launched, we made clear that we want to work on our core product first, because this is what brings the utility of Ride to life. And until now, there are basically two utilities. You can join the rewards program, so the meta staking, or you can access our token gated Discord server. So these are the two major utilities we're currently having. So this will change now, and this is what excites me. If you ask about the excitement, what's coming next, because we have worked on so many things. Once we have our core product live and we roll out to more markets, and allow more people to access the platform, that we can now release. And I follow very closely what the community has to say. And I mean, one of the earliest questions we always get is, what happens with meta staking? So it ends end of February, what's next? So rest assured, it will continue, but it will continue more powerful than before. So I'll not spoil anything, but rest assured, I know that's important for a lot of people. We get the question, when can I purchase my subscription and the retrofit with Ride tokens? Is there an easier way to onboard to Ride tokens? Yes, of course. This is also a no-brainer. This will also go live very soon. But the magic really happens once you engage with our ecosystem, and we really want to turn Ride into the mobility experience token that also goes beyond our ecosystem. But let's start with our ecosystem first. There will be mechanisms where the more you engage, the more you earn, that you can use for other things, for other items, where you can purchase items with the Ride tokens or the tokens you have earned over time. If you share more insights with us, you get more rewards. If you engage actively in our content ecosystem, for example, if you're a holder of a Skyjack prototype NFT, this might earn you more rewards and give you more access to certain areas in our ecosystem. So we'll release our utility roadmap very soon, so where you can see all the different steps. But rest assured, I'm super excited now. On the one hand, scaling our solution to more and more people, and on the other hand, tying this very, very closely with our Ride utility token and launch more tokens. I mean, if you read our white paper, then you already know a few things we're working on. But over the course of the last year, we generated so many ideas that we now build step by step that really lock you into this ecosystem. And from there, it can expand to other mobility use cases, which we are pretty excited about. I know I'll probably spoil too much, but it's. I mean, our technology is location and motion based, and think about items that are location based. You can collect and earn rewards with, which are interesting for the industry as well as for passengers at the same time. So let's have another chat in, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months time. I'll probably show you some very interesting stuff.
Wow, yeah. Looking forward to that, and that sounds like something we can put on the calendar. I can say that I'm glad that we waited to have this interview. We tried to do it earlier last
Yeah,
year, but I
yeah.
think altogether it makes much more sense. We have some products that have actually rolled out, some more answers have been displayed more clearly as to, what is the purpose of the ride token. So it's clear, and we'll get into the retrofit later on. I mean that's gonna a key point as well. That retrofit was extraordinary. I don't want to get into it quite yet. I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, that ride token, getting it back on into focus. Just follow up question there, Nils, as you continue to, as I mentioned earlier, this kind of hybrid between maybe a Web 2 and Web 3 idea. What are just some impressions, especially considering your position? What are some of your processes as you learn more about cryptocurrency and understand more tangibly some of the use cases of cryptocurrency? Are there any things that really get you excited about maybe beyond Holoride, just what this wave of technology might bring? I'm just curious to hear, I mean, from your perspective, you have a very vast, wide view of the space.
Yeah, I think it unlocks a lot of use cases where I personally look at from a Holoride perspective in the mobility space, which are unseen. And where our major task, and we also consider this as one of our tasks at Holoride, showing the industry, showing the mobility and transportation industry the benefits of the blockchain technology and tokenization in general, and participatory ownership as well. We have, I mean, we work with a lot of car manufacturers, and we very often get the question, "Hey, can you help us in onboarding into the Web3 world?" And we in the past 2 years, we had to say no because we were so focused on our core product. But I see it more and more my personal obligation also to educate and share some of the experiences we have made in the space and where we see a lot of potential that can be unlocked in the space. And I'm not talking just about automotive. Think about public transportation, think about all micro mobility solutions. There are so many things where you can, and it's not a coincidence that we called our token Ride. So where we see a lot of potential in a passenger or rider economy that is extremely beneficial, whether it's rewards, whether it's a partial ownership. I mean, you're based in the US. For you, everything is a security token. And this is something where we also very closely look into, because US is a major market for us, and with a security angle, you could potentially cover more use cases in the future. But yeah, okay. Well, we'll disclose more. But I think one of my main tasks will also educating the automotive industry in the next few months.
Welcome back. We just had a quick camera switch right there. We were just discussing the Holoride economy and how Holoride sees itself fitting into the metaverse and growing within the metaverse. And I think a couple of questions that I have over here is, you were mentioning the Ride token being used to support those content creators. First off, how are you guys attracting content creators to the space, not only through social media, but maybe through your creator space tool? And how are you guys promoting the use of your Elastic SDK for people to create more content and just bolster the Holoride ecosystem?
Yeah, this also has been quite an interesting journey, because we have a studio we started working with like in our very first day, called Shell Games. They're based in Pittsburgh. They're a very well-known VR studio, and we got into touch with them during our time at Audi already. So, and they followed our journey. Jesse Shell is a fantastic supporter, and they are the largest, I think one of the largest, at least, indie studios in the US in the space of VR. And of course, they have a big network, and he started talking about us. So we got approached by other studios, and we also looked at the studios we found interesting from a creative perspective, and also from a technology angle, because they have proven in the past that they're very tech savvy and experiment. So we reached out to them, and we started building this small community of studios. We shipped a very early version of our SDK to get some feedback, asked them what kind of tutorials they would need. They built the first sample experiences. So it was a very, very friendly, collaborative dialogue. And in 2021, we had a little spoiler to our Retrofit device, because we announced during the Game Developers Conference that we'll ship a developer's kit to studios that are interested, and not just use our simulation tools, but try it in a real car. So this was a little spoiler, and I'm still surprised that no one really thought of this could become a consumer product. But so we fostered this relationship, and we have some fantastic studios we work with. Just besides Shell Games, we have announced during CES another bigger immersive title on our platform called Pixel Ripped 1995 on the Road, which is a derivative by Avori Games that have built the Pixel Ripped series and now have built a derivative for our platform. And also with their founder team, we have a very good relationship, and it was a very collaborative process of working together. So we also consider them being our community, and we try to do everything that makes us an extremely, if not the most friendly platform for developers. Because the competition in this space is big, developers think twice on where they place their bet if they develop titles, because also they, especially indie studios, have limited resources. So you need to have an attractive offering. And definitely the idle time in cars is a big one. And also now it became more relevant for developers, because with a Retrofit, we have the capability to scale. It's no longer just limited to Audi series production cars or Holoride ready series production cars. I mean, in the US, you guys have probably 100 million private passenger cars on the road, excluding the light trucks. I don't know, Ford F-150 is considered a light truck, pretty heavy from a European perspective, but it's the light truck segment. So I think including the light truck segment, it's 180 million cars on your roads. Over here in Europe, you have more than 200 million passenger cars on the road. And the average age is, in Germany, it's 11 years or even more. In the US, it's 12 years, the average age of a car on the road. So not everybody has the latest car. And so the Retrofit obviously gives us a good opportunity to scale, and then it becomes more relevant for developers as well.
Yeah, I think being able to open up the ecosystem for as many people as possible is probably one of the most key things to just adoption of the platform as a whole. Because I mean, as we all know, Audi is not an intro vehicle for a lot of people in the US. Neither, well, in Europe, it's a little more common to own an Audi, of course, but not as
pricey.
Yes, it's still pricey. So I think what you guys are doing there is probably a really great thing to just continue to onboard as many people as possible, and just tote that Holoride name and what you're doing for car travel as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, we're also now a small company, and I know our solution is not cheap either. This is also due to the fact that we currently bundle it also with a headset, because most people don't have a headset yet, and this is unfortunately still pricey. However, we work very strong with our partners on the fact, how can we bring the price down? Are there different models? Are there maybe rental models where you can pay with a ride and you just borrow the items and can experience it for your kids over the summer vacation? Are there financing methods, how you can have more or an easy access to the solution? So we work on this, but step by step. Yeah, and the mechanics will apply there for the industry, automotive industry. Content creators, passengers will also always include our ride token. Sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's invisible, but we will implement the mechanic that really on the one hand drives the demand and on the other hand reduces the supply by burning. And this is also something we'll share more about in the next few weeks. But so at the end, for us, it's important that everyone benefits from the ecosystem. And if you're just a ride token holder, that you also can, by contributing in the community, capture some of the value over time. I think what makes the value will be the ecosystem, and that's what we have created Ride for.
That's really awesome to hear. The metaverse, the Motorverse is it's nice to have kind of words that really kind of separate from the this metaverse wave that's kind of come through. How, Nils, would you describe in a short way, what is the Motorverse? Why are people going to gain interest in this? Why should people really get into it, and why should they care, get involved, and so forth?
Yeah, I started writing an article about it, and it turned literally into almost a book. So I'll finish it up and publish it, but I try to make it in time for our podcast here. So first of all, people need to get a better definition of what the metaverse is. Currently, there are so many definitions out there. People only have a vague idea what this can be and what it should be today. So I think one of the things everyone should consider when thinking about the metaverse is this is the next step in computing. We are moving away from screens into the space. So it's, in other words, I was very happy when the term became more public and more popular, because it's a more consumer-friendly word than spatial computing. But at the end, it's about presence, it's about space, and it's about time, and moving away from screens into the space. And if you think about tangible applications and devices, suddenly you think about cars, because cars are the perfect spatial device already today. They're traveling from A to B. They cover almost the whole globe. They travel the globe at a frequent basis in high speeds, and they have a lot of sensors on collecting data with cameras, with lidars, with passenger information. People are traveling from A to B. So they are already the perfect spatial device. So part of my educational journey for the automotive industry is, don't talk about smartphones on wheels. Smartphones are 20 years old. We are moving into the next space.
That's an interesting perspective.
You have everything at hand as car manufacturer. You build spatial devices since 100 years. And now you have all the sensors in there a smartphone can dream of, because you're preparing for autonomous driving. So this is the path. And we said, okay, let's coin it with a term. We bring the metaverse to cars and cars into the metaverse. So let's call it Motorverse, because we are focusing on this transportation angle. And if you think it even a step further, stories, every story is a journey. It's a journey of a hero. It's a journey from A to B. The oldest stories people know are about journeys. And cars, you're traveling from A to B through the real world. It's like, you have to conquer this space and make this a tangible metaverse use case. And this is where we said, okay, we call it the Motorverse because it's specific for cars or transportation. And we are one of the few very, very tangible use cases. Also in terms of tokenization, I think we are one of the very, very few tangible Web3 use cases. I mean, it's there are a lot of concepts are only virtual, only existing as a light paper. But hey, you can buy our product now. We'll roll out the utility. It's this is what differentiates us, and I think this is powerful. And another very important aspect, what I personally see is essential for the metaverse in general, is the connection to the physical world. There is no such thing as reality that needs to be tangible, but also for many people, virtual or digital life is reality. So you need to differentiate no longer between these different realities, digital reality and physical reality, but the very powerful or the magic happens when you combine those things and create the next reality. And this next reality is what I think will be the metaverse in its ideal stage. And now you know all the terms. It needs to be interoperable. It needs, inclusive, and so on. But I think the essential elements are this connection between physical and digital reality to create something new, and knowing that it moves into the space, and it's UIs will change. Currently in VR, you see a lot of mimics of mimicking the 2D world into a 3D world, but hey, being and having content around you also gives you new ways to interact with it, and it's still day one, Amazon would say, right? So it's in its infancy. We'll see so many developments over the next 10 years. We can't even imagine today, but we'll be at the forefront, hopefully driving it literally, at least for the automotive or mobility industry.
Well, it's super clear hearing from yourself and hearing from the community on Twitter, and that stories, journeys, and experiences, I mean, that really seems like, the nails that Holoride is really smacking on the head. So I do want to dive much more into that, but before we do, just a final follow-up question after that, Nils, was your expectation for autonomous driving. And I'm sure there are a lot of community members that are interested if there are any plans with big mass production companies such as Tesla, of course, but I know when everything really started to click for me, and I really genuinely started to get excited about Holoride, was imagining a world in the future where autonomous driving is the mode of transportation, and people don't get behind the Holoride Motorverse during their commute. Rather, they get into their cars to join this ecosystem. So any response there with regard to where you see the future with autonomous driving, and where beyond adding value to the transit time, I mean, do you think that Holoride will become almost a theme park for anybody to join at any given moment? They have a car that drives itself that can join the Motorverse by walking into their car. What's your response with that?
Yeah. So if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, I would have said in 5 years we have autonomous cars. If you'd asked me today, I'll say in 5 years we have autonomous cars. So one thing that is clear, it usually takes longer than people expect. And but we see like the very first extremely promising breakthroughs at the moment. So I'm pretty sure we'll see it sooner than later. The only thing that worries me at the moment is a lot of car manufacturers pull out of the efforts to develop autonomous vehicles because they figured, oh, it's more profitable to build driver assistance systems because I can sell them at a high profit margin. So maybe let's focus on this for the next few years. And they sacrifice the development of fully autonomous cars. And it feels a little bit like in the very first ages of electrification, where everyone was like, oh yeah, that it's interesting further down the road, but let's build more efficient combustion engine cars because they're more profitable. And you can see a very strong parallel here at the moment, which I think is worrying. Luckily, there are a lot of startups and there are a lot of tech companies really pushing the boundaries also in autonomous tech. But it will still take a while, and you'll see it more in like special purpose use cases, maybe in theme parks, maybe in specific sections of cities. Probably you see it first in China or Middle East, then you see it over here in Europe or in the United States at a broader scale. I don't know, but it will come. And it's definitely a massive turbocharger for our technology, because we get approached a lot by companies that are purely focusing on autonomous vehicles because they think about additional services, things they can offer to their customers. And this will be beneficial for us. And once you have autonomous cars, you'll see more special purpose vehicles. So and then definitely I see a future where people get into a car to experience something and not to get from A to B, because it's very convenient to let the theme park come to your house or your location where you are and go on a thrill ride and then continue your daily life, instead of going to very specific locations, finding a parking spot, renting a hotel room, and la-di-da-di-da-di. So there is a more convenient way to get entertained. And where I see big potential, and where we also have a focus on at the moment, is educational experiences. Because people learn from books, but they forget. And then you watch a documentary, you might remember it a little better. But once you have lived through something, you have experienced it, you'll remember it potentially forever. And going on to a guided ride and experience something is where we see a lot of things happening in the near future. So so don't ask me about autonomous cars. I'll probably go wild and add hyperloops and autonomous drones to it. But the autonomous age is coming, and we build our platform, our tech, our ecosystem to be ready for it and not wait until it's there. The initial thought when we had Holoride was, okay, autonomous cars, what are people going to do? How we contribute and how we benefit from the value chain. But then we discovered, hey, the passenger economy is already here. A lot of people are being driven around every day. Teenagers, future car buyers, future customers, they're being driven around today in cars. They're already there. Why wait? That was our approach.
And speaking about today and the current experience, the current journey, what ways is Holoride hoping to really continue to grow their ecosystem that they have, not on the outside world, but when you get into that Holoride world, when you put on your glasses? Currently, you guys have a couple of things that you have as products. In what ways are you planning to expand this ecosystem? Are you planning on only working with those two developers that you mentioned earlier, or how are you trying to get more content onto this in order to get people excited about putting on those HTC Vives and hopping into the Motorverse?
Yeah, very good question. No, of course, I just mentioned the two developers because we have a very close relationship with them, but we also work with other developers we already have, and we are currently working with others. And as I said, the best platform is worth nothing without a great content portfolio or experience portfolio. So every other week, you'll see new titles being added. And part of our approach is being agnostic. So Audi is our first partner for serious integration. More to follow. The HTC Vive Flow, the headset we started with because it has the best form factor in the market, like sunglasses, very lightweight, and HTC just introduced, you can't even call it successor device at CES, but like the next iteration of headsets. And there is a lot of interesting stuff happening. So we'll not be just tied to this one device, but we're currently also marketing it because most people don't have a device yet. So we just offer it in a very convenient package. But also in terms of content, we'll go broader. One of the things that we'll release very soon is because we discovered the traditional 2D use case is also interesting for many passengers, like watching their favorite Netflix show or watching their favorite movie on a massive screen inside the car and have the motion synchronization and their peripheral view to bring down motion sickness, or just with a big screen and have a themed environment, increase the immersion and not cramp over your tablet, but lean back, have your glasses and just enjoy the show. We'll release something in this domain as well in the next few weeks because we see a lot of interest in the market for those applications. I touched upon education. In Asia, we get a lot of requests for relaxation and well-being and mental health applications, and productivity is also something that always is requested. Hey, can we have something cool that is motion synchronized and where people can be more productive on their ride? So these are all the areas we are exploring, but as a startup, you need to focus. So teenagers, entertainment was our initial starting point, but from there we definitely grow. And we don't build the applications ourselves. We always partner with people that have a good idea and say, hey, this would be a cool application I'd love to build. And then we help them realizing their dream.
Awesome, Nils. You mentioned wanting to just expand the ecosystem itself and make it available to almost anyone, hopefully. And I'm really glad to see that you guys are using the HTC Vive. I think that makes a lot of sense because I agree with you. It's probably one of the best headsets that's out there. If you look at the Oculus Rift, man, you got like 3 pounds on your face. You know what I mean? So like,
not convenient in a car. Yeah.
No, not convenient in a car at all. So that's great that you guys got the HTC Vive. But speaking of hardware technology that you guys have, and like you said earlier, you're one of the companies out there that actually has a product to give to people. It's not just a thought like a lot of these EV companies that existed in the past. They're like, we're building a car that can get you 400 miles, but where's your product? But you guys actually have something that's solid. People can purchase, get it shipped to their house. I know you'll start shipping sometime in February for this new retrofit model, which just expands it to any car. I drive a piece of crap 2007 Toyota Corolla, and you best believe I can put a Holoride retrofit in there. So could you go over a little bit about what gets you excited about this retrofit, and what led you guys to just creating that in the first place?
Yeah. So initially, I already shared with you, the first thought was, of course, how can we bring it to more cars without the need of full integration and collaborating with car manufacturers? Because let's be honest, they have so much on their plate. A car is a highly complex product. We managed to bring down the barriers as much down as we could, so they don't need to change the signals. They just need to provide them via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. They don't need to put extra hardware into their cars. Just give us the signals. We do the rest with our algorithms. And in this process, we also trained our algorithm on a very basic data set that now can come from back in the days from our developers kit, but now from the retrofit device. And scalability was one of the thoughts. However, we are not shifting away from collaborating with car manufacturers. We work with a lot of them very, very closely, because in terms of user experience and future potential, and accessing more data sets in the car unlocks more possibilities also for creators in the future. So, but yeah, so at a fairly decent price, you can enable your, what was it, 2007 Toyota Corolla?
Yes.
For your family to take them on Holorides. This was always the idea that we scale. I mean, the used cars are massive in the markets. As I said earlier, 150 million cars in the US that you would consider passenger cars, light trucks. Europe, the same or even more. And so many families that don't drive the latest Audi or whatever comes next. So it's important that they can access it, and soon, if they are ride holders, they can also purchase it with ride and so on. It's all coming, but that was the main motivation behind it. And yeah, I was extremely excited at CES, because what really surprised me personally, nobody did see this coming. So it hit most people by surprise that we now have a physical product that you can order now, and it will be delivered in February, and then you can go on a Holoride. No one did expect this, and this was great to see. And I think most of the things we are currently working on, we still kept very nicely under the hood. So hopefully they'll surprise a lot of people too.
Yeah, to bring up CES 2023, that's definitely a topic to dive into, which congratulations for receiving the Innovation Honorary Award, and
Thank
for
you.
being there is really incredible. I think that you, Holoride being you, caught a lot of headlines by providing this retrofit in a very dramatic way, affixing it to a 67 Cadillac Fleetwood. So I'm really curious, as we kind of time moves fast here, but as we wrap up here, Nils, share with us about your experience at CES 2023. And I'm really interested to hear what sort of responses, reactions people had, both learning about Holoride for the first time, experiencing it in the backseat of a car from 1967. What was the experience like in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I'm still buzzing. So I'm still catching up with follow-up requests we have from this 1 week on site, because many people did try it and then followed up with us or just read the news. And now we are prioritizing all the requests we are getting. But there are some very interesting ones. This was a week. It was extremely intense because your Audi had this very nice location at the Waldorf Astoria and brought 7 e-tron vehicles that are Holoride ready, so people could get into the series production car and just try it and see how it works. And then afterwards, they could compare the experience also with a retrofit. So because we had the 2 Cadillacs, you see them both here.
Yep, there they are.
We had them at the location and offered people the ride afterwards, or if they wanted to try only the retrofit. The feedback was amazing because, as I said, no one really had this on the radar, and everybody was like, "Wow!" And for $199, I can make my 2007 Toyota Corolla Holoride ready for my family. That's amazing. Then we launched the Pixel Rip 9095 on the road as a new title. It was also the premiere. No one had played it before outside Holoride and Ivori. And they were also extremely excited to see such a beloved franchise, VR franchise, now seeing a derivative that works in the car. And also the motion sickness aspect. Again, it was a proof point that in both cars, whether it was series integration or retrofit, people didn't experience motion sickness. We can't cure it, so there's always 1 or 2 that do feel dizzy because they usually feel dizzy in cars. We're not a medical device, we're an experience solution, but with a positive side effect. This was also great to see. And people could take any route in Vegas and it works. I mean, our first presentation at CES 2019 was with computers in a trunk, a wired headset on a closed track. And now it was on open roads, and you could jump into this beautiful convertible being driven around. I had Bonici, so George tried it on site. He was at Vegas. He tried it and usually gets motion sick, and he was totally excited. But we had, I don't know, we had several hundred guests. I think 250, and did like 4,700 minutes of Holorides during this few days. So it was cool. And as I said, I'm still buzzing. And we also wanted to give people a little giveaway when they were on site. Unfortunately, they arrived too late, but you can also, maybe that's something for I'll send you one. This is one for your Toyota Corolla. So the Pixel Rip 95, you can hang it for your car. No, but I'm still thrilled. It was a great week, but it was just the start into 2023. So stay tuned for more.
As you said, Neil, that's just the start for 2023 for Holoride. And as we continue to wrap up here, could you give us a little bit of outlook for Holoride in 2023 and tell us a little bit about the Gather Days that you host as well, which really just promotes community involvement. If you could go ahead and get a little bit into that, Nils.
Yeah, our first launch title was Cloudbreakers, and developed by Shell Games, and one of the heroes is Skyjack, the robot you steer to collect items for your community. And we have developed this IP in collaboration with an agency called Superconductor that was founded by the Russo brothers, so the directors of the Marvel Avengers movies, the last 2 ones, and also the Gray Man. And they're our advisors, and they were also creative advisors in creating a universe behind Cloudbreakers. So Cloudbreakers is the first game set in this universe. And we have launched our NFT collection, the Skyjack prototypes, end of last year. And of course, this IP plays a major role for us because it will expand over time. And we also teased a little bit for the NFT holders that Skyjack can grab things in the real world, and we are currently doing a raffle. So if you're a holder, you might win one of our 20 retrofit packs. So we have the headset, the subscription, the retrofit, and everything included. Of course, we'll expand this universe too. So give more people the opportunity to participate in this ecosystem as well. So very much looking forward to the making the winners of our raffle like our ambassadors and tie them even closer to us as community members and get their feedback and hear their voice and have chats with them. But yeah, we'll definitely expand on that end as well, which is a great opportunity. With launching a new platform, you can do it in a very community-driven way. And also holders will maybe benefit more in our rewards program.
Maybe so. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I mean, again, I love those gather days and even how it
you ask about the gather day. Sorry. Right. So from this universe, that's what I wanted to tell you. The community gathers once a month to shoot up over the clouds and collect new items so that the community on Earth can survive. So, and this monthly event is called Gather Day in this Cloudbreakers universe. So I took this term and said, okay, our community events we'll call Gather Day, and we'll host them once a month. Mm-hmm. So the next one is in February now. So we'll share more about the right utility during this Gather Day. The last one we had early January. I did this live from Las Vegas, from the Audi location in the morning before the guests started showing up. So this format is important for me because people can ask questions they want to have answered, but also we try to make sure that the community stays ahead of the curve. So very often we release things first at Gather Day before we make them more public. This is also our way to involve them more closely and value them because I personally know how important our community is, and I'm glad to have them. And so this is our way to give back a little. So even if it's just an information advantage once in a while, but hopefully the Gather Days are fun too.
Yeah, and the community aspect is such an important role, and the gather days are something that are valuable over time. I mean, so if you're watching this video, I mean, definitely go back in time and get glued into what's going on with these gather days. You host them with Kat, which has been instrumental in getting this set up. So yeah, that's great to hear that the gather day, the name of it kind of spawned out of, and it relates to Cloudbreakers, and it's always something great to give people to connect with, and then, as you said, kind of connect it to the real world as well. So I will be participating and joining those gather days in the future, and based on this interview and the smile on your face, I'm really looking forward to everything else that Holoride has to share during those times.
And I think I just got one last follow-up question for you, Nils, because I think it's something that everyone hopefully is probably a little bit interested in. Some of your strategic partners, you mentioned the Russo brothers, and then you also have the, I believe, founder of Oculus. What kind of role? I know the Russo brothers play a creative advisory role. What other roles are some of these big names playing within the Holoride community, and do they play an active part, or is this more of a passive role that they play?
No, they're extremely active. For example, Palma, the founder of Oculus back in the days, he showed up at CES at our location. He did a test drive. Whenever I'm in the US and in California, we try to meet and show him the latest tech. So every advisory board member has a very specific role and contributing actively. So Palma on the VR tech side, Thomas is more augmented reality. The Russos obviously help us connect in Hollywood and also be more from the entertainment angle. And they're just not just great storytellers, they're also extremely tech savvy, what makes them so interesting for us to work with them. They definitely have the least time available because they are booked for so many movie projects. With Kathleen, I have a very close personal relationship because she touched one of the topics that I found extremely interesting when thinking about the metaverse. She's a digital or technology humanist. So she looks at the impact that technology has on humans and how to be respectful and mindful with all the developments we're currently pushing. So it's a very, very important voice to hear. Then we have Clark, who is based in Berlin. He's a US citizen, but he lives in Berlin and helps us connect also with the government and all the institutions in Berlin, because we hope to also influence the general direction of developments with our work and try to be a voice to be heard there. So where he helps us. We have Todd, who's a business partner to the Russos. He's a great business mind in the entertainment space. So they all play different roles in our advisory board, and we have one-on-one meetings. Sometimes we gather with them all together, which is very rare. But also Dirk Alborn, he's the only mobility guy basically in our group, but not from traditional automotive. He founded Hyperloop TT, was their CEO for quite some time because we thought already about new transportation applications in the future. And Hyperloop is definitely something where immersive tech can help because many people are claustrophobic in these tunnels, and maybe you can help comfort them. So they're not just how would you say this in English? They're active members of our team, depending on their availability and time, of course, but they're an integral part, and I really love to have them on board. I couldn't wish for a better advisory board, to be honest.
Heck yeah.
Well, speaking of time, we are getting to the close here. It's crazy how quickly it goes and how you never really get around to asking all the questions. But the last question I have before rolling out the close here, it has to do with how you mentioned the educational experiences. I guess I just want to commend the team at Holoride for what they are, the instrumental role that you're playing in connecting these, just like everyday customers, your everyday type people with understanding what the blockchain technology can be useful for. So last question is really just an opportunity for you to connect with the community on a continued deeper level. And Nils, what can the Holoride community and maybe MultiversX community that's learning more about Holoride, what do you see as ways that we can really play instrumental roles in complementing this advancement of technology that Holoride is definitely spearheading with the Motorverse? How can we get involved? What can we do to help? I'll just leave it at that. What can the community do to get involved and help out?
So initially, if you haven't done it yet, please join our Discord server, because this is where we also share more things and push the dialogue and get you as a sounding board. And this is also the place where we'll announce more of the utilities and how can you actively play a role if you want to contribute in a certain area, whether it's XR tech, whether it's content, whether it's mobility, to really invite you to shape our ecosystem. There will be a few more things coming up in the next few months where you can actively contribute. And other than that, share our story. I think it's worth sharing, and sometimes be a little patient, because the things takes time if you want to build something with substance, and if you're in it for the long game, then sometimes things take time. But until now, we have hit every our milestones. We have communicated, and I'm not planning to change this. But it's more long-term engagement, and we are definitely more for the community members that wanna see this grow and then participate in the long run. We're more for investors than for traders, one would say, maybe. I see so much more potential also in the MultiversX community that we can jointly build something very, very unique and show people what the Motorverse can be. And in that sense, right on.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, Alec, you got anything else to add?
Nah, man, that's it for me. Just want to say thank you, Nils, for just being able to make time for us today and being able to make it here on Podcast Elrond. Who knows what we will be called later.
Honestly, thank you so much for the invitation. You're definitely one of the shows I love listening.
Thank you.
Because it's you know your stuff, you know what to ask, and it was a big honor to be part of it today.
Man, that's really greatly appreciated, Nils. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess that's really all we have. I'll just give you one final opportunity here, Nils. If there's anything you want to leave the viewers with before we close out.
I think we have said it all, but let's look forward to a great 2023. And my standard sentence, I've said it already, but it's right on.
Let's ride on then. Nils, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and really looking forward to sharing all the insights here with the audience. And you said it yourself, and we'll close it out one more time. Ride on, and we'll see everybody in the next one.
Right on, baby.
See you later, everybody.
See you later.